The massive alien ship appeared in Earth's orbit on a Tuesday morning. It was silver and smooth, shaped like a teardrop that stretched for 3 kilometers. No weapons were visible, but its size alone made every military base on the planet go to full alert. Captain Deho stood in the control room of the Earth Defense Force headquarters, watching the screens that showed the alien vessel. He had been a soldier for 20 years, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. His hands were steady as he held his coffee cup, but his mind was racing. "Sir, they're sending a message," said Lieutenant Kim at the communications desk. "Put it on the main screen." The face that appeared was not human, but it was not terrifying either. The alien had large dark eyes and pale blue skin. When it spoke, the words came through a translation device that made its voice sound mechanical. "People of Earth, I am Ambassador Veltar of the Alterian Confederacy. We represent the Galactic Council, a group of civilized species that governs this part of the galaxy. We have been watching your world for many years. We come in peace to offer you a chance to join our community." Deho set down his coffee cup. "Open a channel. This is Captain Deho of the Earth Defense Force. We welcome you to our system, Ambassador Veltar. We are ready to talk." 3 hours later, Deho sat in a meeting room with Dr. So Young, Earth's best expert on alien life. They had been chosen to speak for all of humanity. The weight of that responsibility felt heavy on their shoulders. Dr. So Young was a small woman with sharp eyes who had spent her life studying the possibility of alien contact. She had written books about what first contact might be like, but the reality was different from anything she had imagined. The alien delegation had landed their shuttle in the courtyard of the United Nations building in New York. Ambassador Veltar was joined by 3 other aliens from different species. One looked like a tall, thin human with green skin. Another had 4 arms and moved like a large insect. The third was covered in fur and walked on 6 legs. "We are honored by your presence," Dr. So Young said as they sat around a large table. "Humanity has dreamed of this day for centuries." Ambassador Veltar nodded slowly. "We know. We have watched your species develop. You have shown promise, but also concerning behaviors. War, violence, destruction of your environment. These things worry the Galactic Council." Deho leaned forward. "We're not perfect, but we're learning. We want to be better." "That is good to hear," Veltar said. He gestured to one of his assistants, who placed a thick book on the table. The book was enormous, easily 800 pages long. "This is the Treaty of Galactic Integration. It explains how new species join our community. The process takes time, usually between 200 and 300 of your Earth years." Dr. So Young picked up the heavy book and flipped through the pages. The writing was small and dense. "This will take months just to read." "Yes," Veltar agreed. "Integration cannot be rushed. First, your species must prove it can live in peace. You must stop all wars and conflicts. Then you must clean your environment and show you can care for a planet properly. After that, you must demonstrate advanced technology that meets our standards." "What happens during these 300 years?" Deho asked. Another alien, the one with green skin, spoke for the first time. "Your species will be monitored. We will check your progress every 50 years. When you pass all requirements, you will be allowed to send representatives to the Galactic Council. Eventually, if you prove worthy, you may be permitted to visit other worlds." "Visit?" Dr. So Young looked confused. "What about colonization? Exploration?" The 4-armed alien made a sound like clicking. "New species are not allowed to leave their home systems without council approval. This usually happens after 500 years of membership, assuming good behavior." Deho felt something cold in his stomach. "So for the next 800 years, humanity would be trapped in our own solar system?" "Not trapped," Veltar said quickly. "Protected. Young species often make mistakes when they expand too quickly. They start wars, damage, ecosystems create chaos. The Council prevents these problems." Dr. So Young closed the treaty book. "I see. And what if we don't want to wait 800 years? The aliens looked at each other. Veltar seemed surprised by the question. "I don't understand. Why would you not want to follow the proper procedures? This is how it has always been done. Every species in the galaxy has gone through this process. How many species are in the Galactic Council? Deho asked. 247, the furry alien replied. All peaceful, all civilized, all following the same rules. Deho stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the alien shuttle in the courtyard. People had gathered behind barriers to stare at it. News crews were filming everything. The whole world was watching. Ambassador Veltar, he said, turning back to the table. We appreciate you coming here. We want to be part of the galactic community. But we need to discuss this among ourselves before we can give you an answer. Of course, Veltar said. Take all the time you need. We have waited this long to make contact. A few more weeks or months will not matter. After the aliens returned to their ship, Deho and Dr. So Young sat alone in the meeting room. The treaty book lay open between them. 800 years, Dr. So Young said quietly. That's longer than human civilization has existed. Deho nodded. And they want us to stop being human while we wait. No more conflicts, no more risks, no more pushing boundaries. They mean well, Dr. So Young said. They want to keep us safe. Safe and trapped. Deho picked up the treaty and read a random page. Listen to this. New species must submit all technological development plans to the Council for approval before beginning research. Unauthorized experiments may result in immediate expulsion from the integration program. Dr. So Young leaned back in her chair. They're asking us to become like them. Slow, careful, always asking permission. Over the next 3 days, the alien delegation met with world leaders, scientists, and military commanders. The message was always the same. Follow the rules. Wait. Your turn. Prove you deserve to join the galactic community. On the 4th day, something changed. Deho walked into the meeting room to find Dr. So Young already there, staring at her laptop computer. She looked excited. Deho, you need to see this, she said. I've been analyzing the scans our satellites made of their ship. What did you find? Their technology isn't that advanced. It's better than ours, but not by much. Maybe 50 years. Ahead, not hundreds. She turned the laptop toward him. The screen showed technical diagrams and equations. Look at their propulsion system. It's based on principles we already understand. We could build something similar. Deho sat down beside her. Are you saying we could build our own starships? I'm saying we could try. The math works. We have the materials. It would take time and resources, but it's possible. How much time? With enough funding and the right team? Maybe 5 years for a prototype, 10 years for a real ship. Deho was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. Dr. So Young, I think we need to have another meeting with our alien friends. That afternoon, Ambassador Veltar and his delegation returned to the meeting room. They expected to continue discussing the treaty terms. Instead, they found Deho and Dr. So Young waiting with a simple message. We've made our decision, Deho said. We accept your offer to join the galactic community, but we won't be following your timeline. Veltar looked confused. I don't understand. The timeline is not negotiable. These are the rules. Dr. So Young placed a folder on the table. These are the blueprints for Earth's first interstellar ship. We're calling it the New Soul. Construction begins next month. The alien stared at the folder as if it contained something dangerous. That's impossible, the green-skinned alien said. Your species doesn't have the technology for interstellar travel. We do now, Deho replied. We've been studying your ship since you arrived. Thank you for the lesson. Veltar stood up quickly. You cannot do this. It violates every protocol. The Council will not allow it. We're not asking for permission, Dr. So Young said calmly. We're informing you of our plans as a courtesy. But the rules, Veltar began. Your rules, Deho interrupted. We never agreed to follow them. We said we wanted to join the galactic community, and we do. But we'll do it our way. The four-armed alien made rapid clicking sounds. This is unprecedented. No species has ever attempted unauthorized expansion. Then we'll be the first, Dr. So Young said. Humans have a saying, It's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. Sometimes you have to take risks to achieve great things. Veltar sat back down heavily. The council will be very upset about this. Let them be upset, Deho said. By the time they finish debating what to do about it, we'll already have our first colony established. The meeting ended with the aliens returning to their ship in obvious distress. They spent hours communicating with the Galactic Council, sending long reports about the unexpected human response. That night, Deho stood on the roof of the defense headquarters, looking up at the alien ship in orbit. Dr. So Young joined him, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "Do you think we're making a mistake?" she asked. Deho took a cup and sipped the hot coffee. "Maybe, but we're making it on our own terms. The aliens seem genuinely worried about us. What if they're right? What?" 6 months after the aliens first arrived at Earth, the human colony ship New Sol dropped out of faster-than-light travel in the Kepler 442 system. Captain Minho stood on the bridge, looking at the green and blue planet that filled the main viewing screen. "Beautiful," he said to his first officer, Lieutenant Yuna. "Even better than the probe data suggested." The planet was perfect for human colonization. It had oceans, continents, and an atmosphere that humans could breathe with minor modifications. Most importantly, it was empty of intelligent life. "Begin landing procedures," Minho ordered. "Send word back to Earth. We've found our new home." The New Sol was not a small ship. It carried 50,000 colonists along with everything needed to build a new civilization. Factories, farms, schools, hospitals, and defensive systems were all packed into its massive cargo holds. Within days, the first settlements were established on the planet's largest continent. The colonists named their new world New Busan after the Korean city where many of them had been born. The work was hard, but the humans were motivated. They knew they were making history as the first human colony beyond Earth's solar system. More importantly, they were proving that humanity didn't need the Galactic Council's permission to explore the stars. 3 weeks after landing, Captain Minho received an urgent message from Earth. A fleet of alien warships was approaching the Kepler 442 system. "How many ships?" Minho asked Admiral Nare, who appeared on his communications screen from the bridge of the Earth defense ship Incheon. 47 vessels, Nare replied. "They belong to the Vrex Empire. According to our alien friends, the Vrex had a pending claim on your system." Minho laughed. "Pending claim? The system was empty when we got here." "That's what I told them. Apparently, in galactic law, you can claim a system just by filing paperwork with the Council. You don't actually have to visit it or use it." "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard." Admiral Nare smiled grimly. "Well, you're about to tell them that in person. The Vrex fleet will reach you in 6 hours." Minho looked around his bridge. His crew was young and inexperienced, but they were determined. "How many ships are you bringing to help us?" 12. "It's everything Earth has that can make the jump to your location. 12 ships against 47. Those aren't great odds." "No," Nare agreed. "But they're better than the odds humanity faced when we decided to leave Earth without permission." The alien fleet arrived exactly when predicted. The Vrex ships were large and angular, painted in dark colors that made them look threatening. They moved in perfect formation, like they had done this many times before. Admiral Nare's fleet was smaller but faster. The human ships were sleek and white, built for speed rather than intimidation. They took positions between the Vrex fleet and the planet. "Attention human vessels," came a voice over the communication system. "I am Fleet Commander Zaktor of the Vrex Empire. You are illegally occupying a system claimed by our government. You will evacuate immediately or face the consequences." Admiral Nare responded calmly. "Commander Zaktor, I am Admiral Nare of the Earth Defense Force. This system was uninhabited when we arrived. Under human law, that makes it ours by right of settlement. Human law does not apply here. Galactic law supersedes all local regulations. We never agreed to follow galactic law." There was a long pause. When Commander Zaktor spoke again, his voice sounded confused. "That is impossible. All species follow galactic law. Not us." Down on the planet's surface, Captain Minho was busy, preparing the colony's defenses. The settlement was no longer just a collection of temporary shelters. In 3 weeks, the colonists had built a small city with permanent buildings, factories, and farms. "Sir," called engineer Wan Ho from the Defense Control Center. "The orbital platforms are online and ready," Minho nodded. While the Vrex had been traveling to the system, human engineers had been working around the clock to install defensive satellites around the planet. The platforms were armed with weapons based on alien technology that Dr. So Young had helped them understand. "What about the ground installations?" "All ready, sir. If they try to land, troops will be waiting for them." The space battle began an hour later. Commander Zaktor had expected the humans to surrender when faced with superior numbers. The Vrex Empire had conquered dozens of worlds using the same tactics: arrive with overwhelming force, demand surrender, and occupy the planet when the defenders gave up. But the humans didn't surrender. They attacked first. Admiral Nare's ships moved faster than anything the Vrex had seen before. They struck at the edges of the alien formation, destroying 3 ships before the Vrex could react. Then they disappeared, using advanced stealth technology that made them invisible to Vrex sensors. "Where did they go?" Commander Zaktor demanded of his sensor operator. "I don't know, sir. They just vanished." The human ships reappeared behind the Vrex formation, attacking from a different angle. 2 more alien ships exploded before they vanished again. Commander Zaktor had never faced an enemy like this. Most species fought according to established rules. They formed battle lines, exchanged fire at long range, and fought until one side surrendered. The humans ignored all the rules. "All ships, break formation," he ordered. "Hunt them down individually." It was a mistake. The moment the Vrex fleet scattered, the orbital defense platforms around the planet opened fire. The humans had hidden their weapons well. What looked like simple communication satellites were actually powerful laser cannons. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it was over, 21 Vrex ships had been destroyed or disabled. The remaining vessels retreated to the edge of the system. "This is not over," Commander Zaktor transmitted to Admiral Nare. "The Galactic Council will hear about this." "Attack. Good," Nare replied. "Tell them that humans don't give up what's ours." The news of the victory at New Busan spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. For the first time in galactic history, a new species had defeated an established empire in open combat. More importantly, they had done it while defending a colony that shouldn't have existed according to galactic law. On Earth, President Mi Young held a press conference to address the victory and announce the next phase of human expansion. "The defense of New Busan proves that humanity is ready to take its place among the stars," she said to the crowded room of reporters. "We will not be confined to our home system while we wait for alien approval." A reporter raised her hand. "Madam President, the Galactic Council is demanding that we evacuate New Busan and submit to their integration process. How do you respond, President?" Mi Young smiled. "I respond by announcing that 30 more colony ships are already under construction. In 2 years, humanity will have settlements in 31 different star systems." The room erupted with questions, but President Mi Young continued speaking. "We are not anti-alien. We welcome friendship and cooperation with all species, but we will not ask permission to explore the galaxy that belongs to all of us." Back on New Busan, Captain Minho walked through the growing city that his colonists had built. The main street was lined with shops, restaurants, and homes. Children played in parks while their parents worked in the factories and farms that would make the colony self-sufficient. "Captain," called Dr. Sang Ho, the colony's chief scientist. "You need to see this." Minho followed the scientist to the communications center, where a crowd of people had gathered around a large screen. The screen showed dozens of alien ships approaching the planet, but these weren't warships. "Refugee ships," Dr. Sang Ho explained. "They started arriving this morning. Aliens from all over the galaxy who want to live in human space. Why? They've heard about our victory over the Vrex. More importantly, they've heard about our freedoms. No caste systems, no hereditary rulers, no waiting centuries for permission to change your life." Minho watched as the first refugee ship entered the planet's atmosphere. It was a small vessel, obviously built for long-distance travel rather than comfort. The aliens inside had risked everything to reach human space. "Are we ready for this?" he asked. Dr. Sangho shrugged. "We're about to find out. But isn't this what we wanted? To prove that there's a better way to live than following the Council's rules?" The first alien refugees to land on New Busan were Zephyrians, a species known for their strict caste system that determined every aspect of their lives from birth. On their homeworlds, lower caste Zephyrians could never change their status no matter how intelligent or hardworking they were. But on New Busan, they were simply people looking for new opportunities. Within weeks, more refugee ships arrived. Tralians fleeing their world's rigid religious laws. Korthax escaping economic systems that kept them in poverty for generations. Velkari, who wanted to study forbidden sciences. The Galactic Council was appalled. Species were supposed to stay in their assigned regions and follow their traditional ways of life. The idea that individuals could choose their own destiny was revolutionary and dangerous. Emergency sessions were called. Ambassadors demanded action. But while they debated and formed committees to study the problem, more aliens continued to flee to human space. Captain Minho found himself governing not just a human colony, but a diverse community of species united by a single idea: the right to choose their own future. "Sir," Lieutenant Yuna reported during The crisis really began when the refugees started talking. Mayor Hyunwoo of New Busan Colony walked through the alien quarter of the city, listening to conversations in dozens of different languages. Translator devices helped him understand what was being said, and what he heard worried the Galactic Council more than any human weapon. "On Earth and the human worlds, anyone can become anything," a young Zephyrian was explaining to a group of newly arrived refugees. "Your birth doesn't matter. Your family doesn't matter. What matters is what you choose to do." The listeners gasped. In Zephyrian society, such ideas were not just revolutionary. They were literally unthinkable. Hyunwoo paused to listen as the young alien continued. "I was born into the lowest caste. On my homeworld, I would have spent my life cleaning waste systems. Here I'm studying to become an engineer. The humans don't care about my caste markings. They only care about my abilities." An older Tralian in the group spoke up. "But surely there must be rules, restrictions, some way to maintain order." "There are laws," the Zephyrian replied, "but they apply to everyone equally, rich or poor, human or alien, high caste or low caste. Everyone follows the same rules and has the same opportunities." Mayor Hyun-woo smiled and continued his walk. This was exactly what he had hoped would happen when the first refugees arrived. Ideas were more contagious than any disease, and human ideas were spreading across the galaxy at the speed of light. Every refugee who returned home for visits carried stories of human freedom. Every message sent to family members on distant worlds contained revolutionary concepts. The Galactic Council had tried to control information flow, but it was impossible to stop people from talking to their loved ones. Dr. Yoon-ji, a human anthropologist, who had come to study the refugee communities, was documenting the changes that human contact was causing throughout alien societies. Her research was fascinating and terrifying, depending on your point of view. "The breakdown is happening faster than anyone predicted," she explained to Mayor Hyun-woo during their weekly meeting. "Traditional social structures that have existed for thousands of years are crumbling within months of contact with human ideas." "Is that a bad thing?" Hyun-woo asked. Dr. Yoon-ji pulled up a holographic display showing social unrest across 12 different star systems. The Zephyrian hierarchy is facing the largest rebellion in their recorded history. Lower caste workers are refusing to accept their assigned roles. They want the same freedoms they've heard about from relatives living in human space. Good for them. The Tralian Religious Council has declared a state of emergency. Their people are questioning religious laws that have been absolute for millennia. Some are even abandoning their faith entirely. People should be free to choose their own beliefs. Dr. Yoon-ji nodded, but her expression remained concerned. "I agree with the principles, Hyunwoo, but the practical results are chaos. Governments are collapsing. Economic systems are failing. Some worlds are on the verge of civil war." Hyunwoo stood up and walked to the window of his office. Below he could see the thriving city that had grown around the original colony site. Humans and aliens worked together, lived together, and built something new together. Dr. Yunji, did those old systems deserve to survive? If they could be destroyed by simple ideas about freedom and equality, maybe they needed to be destroyed. Before she could answer, his assistant knocked on the door. "Sir, there's an urgent message from Earth Command. Trade Representative Sung Min wants to speak with you immediately." The holographic image of Sung Min appeared in the office a few moments later. He was calling from his ship, the merchant vessel Prosperity, somewhere in the outer rim of the galaxy. "Hyunwoo," he said without preamble. "We have a problem. The Galactic Council has declared a trade embargo against all human colonies. No alien is supposed to buy or sell anything with us." "How's that working out for them?" Hyunwoo asked. Sungmin grinned. "About as well as you'd expect. Half the galaxy wants what we're selling, and the other half needs what we're buying. The black market is booming." Sungmin had been Earth's first official trade representative to alien civilizations. His job was to establish economic relationships and find markets for human goods. But like most humans, he had quickly discovered that official channels were slow and inefficient. Within months of starting his mission, Sungmin had established a network of smugglers, black market dealers, and corrupt officials that spanned dozens of star systems. Human technology, entertainment, food, and ideas flowed freely throughout the galaxy despite all attempts to stop them. "The Council thinks they can control trade by making it illegal," Sungmin continued. "They don't understand that making something illegal often makes it more profitable." "What are you selling that has them so worried?" Dr. Yunji asked. "Everything. Human movies and music are hugely popular among young aliens. Our computer technology is decades ahead of most species. Our food is exotic and delicious to many alien palates. But the real problem isn't what we're selling, it's what we're teaching." Sungmin gestured to someone off-screen and another human appeared in the hologram. "This is Captain Bo-Ram of the trading ship Daring Spirit. Tell them what happened at the Nexus station." Bo-Ram was a small woman with graying hair and laugh lines around her eyes. She had spent most of her life as a merchant marine, trading goods between Earth's colonies. Now she was trading with aliens. "I arrived at Nexus Station 3 weeks ago," she said. "It's supposed to be a neutral trading post, but the Council had placed restrictions on any trade with humans. The station commander, a Vrex official named Torval, ordered me to leave immediately." "What did you do?" Hyunwoo asked. Bo-Ram smiled. "I ignored him. I set up shop in the lower levels of the station and started trading with individual merchants. Within hours, I had a line of customers, stretching around 3 corridors. The station commander must have been furious. He was. He sent security forces to arrest me, but by then I had made friends with half the station. The merchants I was trading with formed a protective circle around my shop. They told the security forces that if they wanted to arrest me, they'd have to go through paying customers first." Dr. Yunji leaned forward with interest. "What happened next?" "The security forces backed down. They couldn't arrest hundreds of their own citizens just to enforce a trade embargo. Commander Torval was stuck. He could either allow the trade to continue or shut down his own station. Sungmin took over the story. Bo-Ram stayed at Nexus Station for 2 weeks. By the time she left, she had established permanent trading relationships with 47 different merchants. More importantly, she had proven that the Council's embargo was unenforceable. "And now?" Hyunwoo asked. "Now we have permanent human trading posts on 17 different neutral stations throughout the galaxy. The Council keeps passing new laws to stop us, but we keep finding ways around them." After the call ended, Mayor Hyunwoo and Dr. Yunji sat in thoughtful silence. The implications of what they had heard were enormous. "It's not just about trade," Dr. Yunji said finally. "Every human trader who sets up shop on an alien station becomes a teacher. They demonstrate human values through their actions." "Explain." "Think about what Bo-Ram did. She didn't just sell goods. She showed those alien merchants that individuals could stand up to authority. She proved that economic freedom was more powerful than government control. The lesson wasn't in what she said. It was in what she did." Hyunwoo nodded slowly, And every alien who trades with us learns that lesson. Exactly. We're not just selling products. We're selling a way of life. And it's spreading faster than any government can control. The next day brought news that confirmed Dr. Yoon-ji's analysis. The Galactic Council had called an emergency session to address what they were now calling the human contamination crisis. Ambassador Veltar, who had led the first contact mission to Earth, appeared on news broadcasts throughout the galaxy to explain the situation. The human expansion represents an existential threat to galactic civilization, he said to the assembled council members. Their ideas are causing chaos and rebellion on hundreds of worlds. Ancient social structures are collapsing. Traditional values are being abandoned. Entire governments are falling. What do you propose we do about it? Asked a representative of the Alterian Confederacy. We must establish a quarantine around human space. No ships in or out. No communication. No trade. We must contain the contamination before it spreads further. That may already be impossible, replied another council member. Human traders have established bases throughout the galaxy. Human refugees are living on thousands of worlds. How do you quarantine ideas that are already everywhere? The debate continued for days, but while the council talked, the situation continued to evolve. On the Zephyrian homeworld, lower caste workers had organized the largest strike in planetary history. They were demanding the right to change castes, to choose their own occupations, to be judged by their abilities rather than their birth on Tralia Prime. Religious authorities were struggling to maintain control as citizens questioned laws they had never been allowed to question before. Some were forming new religious movements based on human concepts of individual spiritual freedom. On a dozen Korthak worlds, economic protests were growing into political movements demanding democratic reforms. The Galactic Council's ultimatum arrived on a Monday morning, delivered by a small diplomatic ship that appeared in Earth's orbit, exactly as the alien ambassadors had done 2 years earlier. President Mi-young read the message aloud to her cabinet, in the secure briefing room beneath the presidential palace. The words were formal and cold, translated from the original Galactic Standard language. To the human government of Earth. The Galactic Council has determined that human expansion and influence constitute a threat to galactic peace and order. You have 7 days to begin evacuating all human colonies and return to your home system. All humans currently residing outside Earth's solar system must return immediately. Failure to comply will result in military intervention. This ultimatum is final and non-negotiable. Defense Minister Park looked up from his tablet, where he had been reviewing military readiness reports. Madam President, they have assembled the largest fleet in recorded galactic history. 3,047 warships from 12 different species. How many ships can we field? President Mi-young asked. Admiral Jun Seo, the highest-ranking military officer in the Earth Defense Force, answered grimly. 63 combat-capable vessels. We're outnumbered 50 to 1. Those are impossible odds, said Foreign Minister Lee. President Mi-young walked to the large window that looked out over the capital city. Below, life continued normally. People went to work, children played in parks, traffic moved through busy streets. They had no idea that the future of human civilization hung in the balance. Admiral Jun Seo, she said without turning around. In your professional opinion, what would happen if we tried to fight this fleet in conventional warfare? We would lose completely, the admiral replied. Their ships are larger, more heavily armed and far more numerous. In a direct confrontation, the human fleet would be destroyed within hours. And if we surrender, human expansion ends forever. We become a minor species confined to our home system, watched and controlled by the Council for the rest of our existence. President Mi-young turned back to face her advisors. Those are our options, destruction or surrender. There might be a third option, Admiral Jun Seo said carefully, but it would require taking enormous risks. Explain. The alien fleet is massive, but it's also unwieldy. 3,000 ships from 12 different species means 12 different command structures, 12 different sets of protocols, 12 different languages and cultures trying to work together. Defense Minister Park leaned forward with interest. You're talking about their command structure? Exactly. I've been studying their military records since we received the ultimatum. Every major galactic military operation in recorded history has followed the same pattern. The fleet arrives, establishes orbital control, and demands surrender. If the enemy refuses, they begin systematic bombardment until resistance ends. That doesn't sound like it helps us, Foreign Minister Lee said. Admiral Jun Seo smiled for the first time in the meeting. The key word is systematic. Everything they do is planned in advance, discussed in committee, approved by multiple commanders. They don't adapt quickly to unexpected situations. President Mi Young sat down at the head of the conference table. What are you suggesting? Operation Rapid Strike. We don't fight their fleet where they expect us to fight. We strike first, before they finish their preparations. We hit them while they're still organizing their attack. With 63 ships against 3,000? With speed, surprise, and the one advantage humans have always had over every other species in the galaxy. Which is? We act while they're still thinking. The next 6 days were the most intensive preparation period in human military history. Every shipyard in the solar system worked around the clock to upgrade weapons and defenses. Every pilot and crew member in the fleet trained for the mission of their lives. On the 6th day, Commander Tae Woo of the Human Special Operations Force requested a private meeting with Admiral Jun Seo. They met in the Admiral's office aboard the flagship Seoul, which was docked at Luna Station preparing for the coming battle. Sir, Tae Woo said, my team has been analyzing the alien fleet deployment. We've identified a critical weakness. Admiral, Jun Seo looked up from the battle plan spread across his desk. What kind of weakness? Their command structure. The fleet is organized like their government. Everything requires consensus and committee approval. The fleet commander can't make major decisions without consulting with all 12 species representatives. How does that help us? Commander Tae Woo activated a holographic display showing the alien fleet formation. Look at their communication patterns. Every order goes from the fleet commander to the species commanders, then to individual ship captains. The average response time for a fleet-wide maneuver is 14 minutes. 14 minutes? Yes, sir. From the time an order is given until every ship in the fleet responds. Compare that to our fleet, where you can give an order and have every ship responding within 30 seconds. Admiral Jun Seo studied the display with growing excitement. Tae Woo, you might have just found our way to victory. The alien fleet arrived in Earth's solar system exactly when predicted. They took position between Mars and Jupiter, forming a defensive perimeter that would prevent any human ships from escaping the system. Fleet Commander Kethvar of the Alterian Confederacy stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the blue world that had caused so much trouble for the galaxy. The planet looked peaceful from this distance, but he knew it was the source of the revolutionary ideas that were tearing apart the established order. Begin standard approach protocol, he ordered his communications officer. Send the demand for surrender to the human government. Yes, sir. Shall I begin preparations for orbital bombardment? Not yet. First, we must convene the Command Council and agree on bombardment targets. We cannot risk damaging the planet's ecosystem unnecessarily. The Command Council meeting began an hour later. Representatives from all 12 species gathered in the flagship's main conference room to discuss the proper procedures for forcing human surrender. The debate was thorough and careful, as all galactic military decisions were. Every possible scenario was considered. Every ethical concern was addressed. Every legal requirement was reviewed. It took them 4 hours to agree on their initial approach. Meanwhile, the human fleet was already moving. Admiral Jun Seo had positioned his ships throughout the outer solar system, hidden behind asteroids and moons. While the aliens debated their strategy, the human fleet converged on predetermined attack positions. All ships report ready, came the voice of Captain Yu Jin from the attack cruiser Busan. Stealth systems active, reported Captain Dongwu from the destroyer Daegu. Target locks acquired, added Captain Su Min from the battleship Gwangju. Admiral. Jun Seo looked around the bridge of the Seoul. His crew was young but experienced, hardened by the battles they had fought to defend human colonies. They knew the odds they faced, but their faces showed determination rather than fear. Communications, he said. Open a channel to all ships. Channel open, sir. All vessels, this is Admiral Jun Seo. Today we fight not just for Earth, but for the freedom of every being in the galaxy who refuses to ask permission to live their own life. We are outnumbered 50-1, but we have something they don't: the courage to act decisively when action is needed. Attack! The human fleet struck like lightning. 63 ships materialized from seemingly empty space, appearing around the alien formation in a coordinated assault that caught the enemy completely off guard. The first wave of human attacks destroyed 18 alien vessels before their opponents could even begin to respond. "What is happening?" Fleet Commander Kethvar demanded as alarm signals sounded throughout his ship. "Human attack," his tactical officer reported. "They appeared from nowhere. They're using some kind of advanced stealth technology." "Impossible. Our sensors would have detected them. Sir, we're losing ships on the outer perimeter. The humans are targeting our supply vessels and communications relays." Fleet Commander Kethvar stared at his tactical display in disbelief. The human fleet was moving in patterns he had never seen before. Individual ships operated independently, striking at weak points in his formation and disappearing before his forces could respond. "Order all ships to return fire," he commanded. "Sir, I need approval from the Command Council before authorizing fleet-wide combat operations." "Then get me the Command Council." But the Command Council was scattered across dozens of different ships. It would take 20 minutes just to establish secure communications with all 12 representatives, and another hour to debate the proper response to the human attack. By then, the battle would be over. Captain Yu Jin of the Busan led her squadron in a devastating assault on the alien fleet's left flank. Her ships moved in perfect coordination, each vessel knowing exactly where the others would be without needing constant communication. "Target the command ship," she ordered her weapons officer. "If we can disable their communications, the whole fleet will be paralyzed." The Busan's main cannon fired a concentrated beam of energy that punched through the shields of a Vrex command cruiser. The alien ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light, taking with it the communication relays that connected the Vrex vessels to the main fleet immediately. 1 year after the Battle of Earth, the galaxy was unrecognizable. President Mi Young stood in the assembly hall of the newly constructed Unity Station, watching delegates from over 400 different worlds take their seats for the first meeting of the Interstellar Cooperative. The station hung in space at the border between what had once been human territory and the former Galactic Council regions, a symbol of the new order that was emerging from the chaos. The Galactic Council no longer existed. The crushing defeat of their armada at Earth had shattered not just their military power, but their authority throughout the galaxy. Within months of the battle, member worlds had begun declaring independence from Council rule. Revolutionary movements that had been inspired by human ideals finally broke free from the chains that had bound them for millennia. "Madam President," said her aide Jinwoo, approaching with the latest reports from across the galaxy. "The Zephyrian people have completed their transition to a merit-based society. Their former caste system has been completely abolished." Mi Young nodded as she reviewed the documents. The transformation of Zephyrian society had been remarkable to witness. Within 6 months of the Battle of Earth, the lower castes had risen up and overthrown the hereditary rulers who had oppressed them for thousands of years. Now Zephyrians were judged by their abilities and choices rather than their birth circumstances. What about Tralia Prime? They've established a secular government for the first time in their recorded history. The religious council agreed to step down peacefully after it became clear they had lost the support of the people. Similar transformations were happening throughout the galaxy. The Korthak worlds had embraced democratic governments. The Velkari had lifted their restrictions on scientific research. Even the proud Vrex Empire had reformed their military-dominated society to allow civilian leadership. Not all the changes had been peaceful. Some worlds had experienced civil wars as old guard leaders fought desperately to maintain their power. But the tide of change was unstoppable, carried forward by beings who had glimpsed the possibility of a different kind of life. Dr. So Young, now serving as director of xenological studies for the cooperative, approached the president with her own set of reports. "Mi Young," she said, using the informal address they had adopted since their days as Earth's first contact team. The integration process is proceeding faster than we ever imagined possible. What do you mean? Former council species are adapting. Human governmental and social structures at an incredible rate. What we expected to take decades is happening in months. Dr. So Young activated a holographic display showing population movements throughout the galaxy. Look at this data. Over 50 million beings have relocated to new worlds in the past year, seeking opportunities that didn't exist under the old system. Species are intermingling and cooperating in ways that were forbidden by council law. President Mi Young studied the display with wonder. The galaxy was experiencing the largest migration in recorded history as beings sought new homes and new opportunities free from the restrictions that had defined their ancestors' lives. Any problems? Some growing pains, Dr. So Young admitted. Different species have different ideas about governance, economics, and social organization, but they're working things out through negotiation and compromise rather than warfare. Admiral Jun Seo joined them at the observation deck. Since the Battle of Earth, he had been leading the integration of former Council military forces into the Cooperative Defense Force. It was a massive undertaking that required combining the tactics, technologies, and traditions of dozens of different species. "President," he said, saluting casually, "the Joint Fleet exercises are exceeding all expectations. Our mixed species crews are operating at 92% efficiency, which is remarkable considering they've only been training together for 6 months. What's the secret to their success?" President Mi Young asked. Admiral Jun Seo smiled. "They've learned to think like humans. Instead of waiting for orders from distant committees, individual ship commanders are making decisions based on immediate circumstances. Response times have improved by a factor of 20. The transformation of galactic military doctrine had been one of the most dramatic changes following the Battle of Earth. For millions of years, alien military forces had operated according to rigid hierarchies and complex approval processes. Human influence had taught them the value of individual initiative and rapid decision-making. Captain Deho, now promoted to Admiral of Cooperative Defense, appeared on the communication screen in the observation deck. He was calling from the Bridge of the Soul, which was currently patrolling the Outer Rim territories where some isolated Council loyalists were still causing trouble. "President Mi Young," he said, "I have news from the frontier. The last Council stronghold at Kepler 186 has surrendered. Admiral Veltar sends his compliments and requests permission to join the cooperative." President Mi Young raised an eyebrow. "Veltar? The same alien who led the first contact mission to Earth?" "The same. He says he's learned that sometimes the best way to serve your people is to embrace change rather than resist it. Grant his request. Former Council leaders who accept the new order peacefully should be welcomed into the cooperative." After the communication ended, President Mi Young walked to the large window that looked out over the Unity Station's docking bays. Hundreds of ships from dozens of different species were arriving and departing, carrying goods, passengers, and ideas throughout the galaxy. The economic transformation had been as dramatic as the political changes. Under Council rule, trade between species had been heavily regulated and restricted. Now, free markets connected worlds across thousands of light years, creating prosperity that no one had imagined possible. Engineer Wan Ho appeared at her side, carrying the tablet that contained his latest project reports. Since the Battle of Earth, he had been leading humanity's most ambitious engineering project, a galaxy-spanning communication network that would allow real-time coordination across vast distances. "Madam President," he said, "I have good news. The quantum communication array is ready for activation. Tell me about it." Wan Ho activated his tablet, showing a complex diagram of communication nodes spread throughout the galaxy. "We've placed quantum communicators on over 2,000 worlds. When activated, they will create an instantaneous communication network that spans the entire galaxy." Instantaneous? Faster than light. Messages will travel from one end of the galaxy to the other without delay. For the first time in galactic history, beings on distant worlds will be able to coordinate their actions in real time. President Mi Young stared at the diagram with amazement. The Council said this was impossible. Their scientists claimed that galaxy-wide instant communication violated the laws of physics. Wanho shrugged. They said a lot of things were impossible. Building it turned out to be easier than convincing them it could be done. The activation of the communication network was scheduled for the opening ceremony of the Interstellar Cooperative. As President Mi-young walked toward the podium in the assembly hall, she reflected on how much had changed since that first meeting with alien ambassadors 2 years ago. Earth's representatives had sat across from Ambassador Veltar listening to lengthy explanations of galactic law and proper procedures. They had been told that joining galactic civilization would require centuries of patience and careful compliance with ancient rules. Instead, humans had proven that progress came not from following old rules, but from having the courage to make new ones. Delegates of the Interstellar Cooperative, President Mi-young began, addressing the assembled representatives from 400 worlds. We gather here today not as subjects seeking permission from distant authorities, but as free beings choosing our own destiny. The audience included humans, Zephyrians, Tralians, Korthax, Velkari, reformed Vrex, and dozens of other species that had thrown off the restrictions of the old order. 2 years ago, humanity received an offer to join galactic civilization, on terms that would have kept us confined and controlled for centuries. We chose a different path. We chose to act rather than wait, to build rather than request, to lead rather than follow. She gestured to the viewing screens that showed the bustling activity throughout Unity Station. The results speak for themselves. Trade is flourishing. Technology is advancing at unprecedented rates. Species that had been isolated for millennia are working together to solve common problems. This is what the galaxy looks like when beings are free to choose their own future. Captain Min Ho, now serving as Colonial Administrator for the Cooperative's expansion program, stood up from his seat in the delegate section. Madam President, he said, the Colonial Council has approved the establishment of 50 new settlements this year. We have applications from over 2 million beings who want to join human-led colony missions. The transformation of galactic colonization had been another dramatic change. Under Council rule, establishing new colonies required decades of paperwork and bureaucratic approval. The cooperative had reduced the process to weeks, allowing rapid expansion into previously unexplored regions of the galaxy. Mayor Hyun-woo, representing the colonial settlements, added his own report. Our colonies are succeeding beyond all projections.